Out of the Woods. Story by Malika. Narrated by me, Andrew Miller. The morning sunlight shone brightly through the open window and fell on Susan's face. She yawned, stretched, and with an effort opened her eyes and got out of bed. Reaching for the curtains, she drew them closed before starting to undress, even though she knew this wasn't necessary. There was very little chance that anyone was spying on her, not out here in the deepest part of the forest. Most girls her age wouldn't be worried under these circumstances. But Susan Adams was no ordinary 15-year-old. To begin with, she stood almost 100 feet tall. Even though she had received the best medical attention that money could provide, Christina Adams died in childbirth. The baby she'd been carrying had grown at a tremendous rate inside her, and doctors had warned her that giving birth at such a late stage would endanger her life. But the decision was hers, and Susan was born a healthy 13-pound baby. As tragic as the circumstances of her birth were, they were nothing compared to what happened afterward. Susan kept on growing at an accelerated pace, and within 6 months measured 6 feet from head to toe. Her father, Joseph Adams, was a millionaire mine owner and spent large parts of his fortune trying to cure his daughter. But doctors' efforts to top her unprecedented growth were futile, and another solution was needed. So, Joseph, with the help of several of his acquaintances, tried to give Susan something resembling a normal life. They bought up 3 square miles of land in Grayling Forest and surrounded it with an electric fence. For Susan, they built a cabin where she could stay in safety. They had to guess how big she was going to be when she stopped growing, and concluded that it was around 100 feet or so. Everything in the cabin was built to her scale. She also had clothes that would fit her, books to help her read and learn, and toys for her to play with. Every week, a fleet of trucks would arrive with enough food for 6,000 people, with a nearby river providing her with water. In short, no expense had been spared to try and provide Susan with a comfortable childhood. Comfortable it may have been, but it was also lonely. Only a few people knew of her existence, while the rest of the world was kept in the dark. Joseph Adams didn't want his daughter constantly being monitored by the media. He arranged for a few trusted tutors to provide her with education, while he himself visited as often as he was able to. As she grew older, Susan began to realize just how lonely she really was, and listened anxiously for the sound of an approaching helicopter coming in to land outside her door. Many times had she begged her father to let her step over the fence and visit the outside world, but he always refused. It was too dangerous, he said, and she was still a child. On her 9th birthday, he told her the whole story of her life, leaving her heartbroken. 6 years have passed since then, but Susan's life had not changed. She still woke up in the same bed every morning. As she was busy dressing herself, she took a moment to admire her reflection in the mirror. Her face was still that of an innocent young girl, but it had begun to look strikingly beautiful. She combed her long red hair, of which she was very proud of, even though she knew there was no one to admire her beauty but herself. Her body had begun to develop into that of a graceful young woman, with protruding breasts and long, slim legs. She stepped onto the specially built scale and weighed herself, 277 tons. "I'm the heaviest creature alive ever," she thought, and imagined herself towering over giant dinosaurs and stomping on elephants as if they were rodents. Sometimes she found her colossal size amusing, though most of the time she wished and wished that she was a normal girl of normal height. She finished dressing and went to make breakfast. Her cabin had just one room, a combined kitchen, bedroom, dining room, and living room. A smaller cabin right next to this was her bathroom, with a shower, wash basin, and toilet. Her father couldn't afford any more, but she was extremely grateful to have this much. If her parents had been poor, she probably wouldn't have survived past age 1. In one mega-sized bowl, she mixed half a ton of oatmeal with over 100 gallons of milk. In another bowl, she poured several thousand apples. Usually she mixed the two, but today she felt like tasting something different. Well, at least it's healthy, she thought of her unchanging diet. I just wish they could make it taste a little different, though. A little sugar wouldn't hurt either. As she ate, the sun rose higher. Susan could tell that it was going to be hot today. The kind of day when she wished her cabin had air conditioning. On several previous hot days, she decided to go exploring near the perimeter fence, and had been duly scolded by her dad for risking her secrecy. But that hasn't stopped her from going back, though now she tried to remain hidden behind the trees whenever she could. Though she still longed to step over the fence, she recognized the danger involved and found herself grudgingly obeying her father's commands. Today was another lonely day with no visitors. She could stay in the cabin and read, but lately she'd grown a little tired of that. I think I'll go to the fence, she thought. There's got to be somewhere in my area I haven't explored yet. Maybe I'll find a little pool. Wouldn't that be great? Anyway, I'll take my towel and just lie on it and tan a little. Underneath her cotton top and short skirt, she wore a bikini swimsuit. She never swam in it, and she begged her father to make one for her, just to wear. From then on, it was her favorite piece of clothing, and she often spent hours in front of the mirror posing in it. There wasn't much else to do, after all, during the long hours she spent alone, but to entertain herself. After packing some snacks in a picnic basket, Susan set off into the surrounding forest. It was dense and difficult to walk through, but she couldn't get lost. The tallest trees only reached her chin, and her cabin was always visible. She headed south, in the direction of the nearby town of Barton, which lay 5 miles beyond the fence. She'd never seen it, and as she walked, she was wondering how to pass the time today, not knowing that her life was about to change forever. The fence loomed up in front of them, an impassable barrier. Or so Jake Darren thought when he first saw it. He'd come out here on his bike after some of his classmates had dared him to climb over the fence in the woods. Now, however, he wasn't so sure. It was about 30 feet tall and practically unclimbable. There were signs on it warning that hazardous materials lay beyond it, that trespassers will be prosecuted, and that the fence carried 10,000 volts of electricity. He couldn't see any way across, and was starting to think this was a waste of time. "So, Jake, are you going to try or what?" asked Billy Dixon. Billy wasn't the kind of guy Jake wanted to be friends with, but there really weren't many other options. Being the new kid at school is definitely not fun, and Jake was glad that there were only 2 years of high school left. He'd come out here with Billy and his friends to try to win their respect. Now it seems they've come to watch him make a fool of himself. "Forget it, Billy. There's no way I'm getting over this fence. It's too dangerous. If you don't want me hanging out with you guys, that's fine, but I'm not stupid enough to risk my life." Billy and the others, Arthur, Frank, and Linda, got off their bikes and came towards him. He felt like leaving quickly, but bravely remained where he was. "Wait a minute," said Frank. "Are you telling me you dragged us all the way out here to watch you do absolutely nothing? Huh? Is that it?" "You've got to be kidding me," said Linda. "What's the matter, Jake? You're not scared of a shitty old fence, are you?" "So what if I am? You're just as scared of it too. Besides, it's probably illegal to climb over anyway, and hey, what the hell are you doing?" He stared at Arthur, who had just stuck a large, unpleasant thorn into his bicycle's wheels. Jake lunged forward to stop him, but Billy grabbed him from behind and pulled him back. "Not so fast, dickhead. This party ain't over yet. Grab him, Frank." Frank, who was a good deal larger than Jake, caught him in a tackle as he tried to run away. Jake fell face down in the dust. He struggled furiously, but the three boys were too much for him to handle, and he was quickly overpowered. All the while, Linda, who was Billy's girlfriend, was laughing unpleasantly. It was pretty obvious to him now that he'd picked the wrong crowd to hang out with. Frank and Arthur each grabbed one of his arms and made sure he couldn't escape. Billy took out a pocket knife and held the blade inches from Jake's face. "Now listen here, you piece of shit," he said nastily. "Either you climb that fence, or else I'm messing your face up a little with this. What's it gonna be?" "Fuck you. I'm telling the cops. You're not getting away with this." "Yes, we are," Billy shouted. "Who do you think you are, huh? Think you can just come along and join our group and we'll be all best friends? Is that it?" "What do you want from me?" Jake shouted, starting to get really afraid. This Billy guy had some serious issues, that's for sure. He couldn't understand what his problem was or why he acted so viciously. Linda just kept laughing and laughing while the others remained still. They were obviously just pawns of their leader, who would do whatever he told them to do, just so that they could call themselves his friends. "I've already told you what I want, dumbass. Now are you going to do it, or do we have to make you do it?" Jake didn't have time to answer before he was being shoved towards the fence. He tried to escape, again without success. Then, at a word from their leader, Frank and Arthur threw him forward and he fell against the fence. The pain was instantaneous. A massive surge of electricity blasted his body backwards 7 feet, and he fell down unconscious. The other four stood silent in a moment, awestruck, before Billy came back to his senses. "What the fuck are you standing around for? Throw him in the bushes or something." Where?" Arthur asked, still dazed by what he saw. "Anywhere. Do I look like I give a shit?" "Oh my God, Billy, did you see that?" Linda asked breathlessly. "That was just... wow, I mean, that was just..." "Shut up," Billy yapped at her. "You don't tell anyone about this, you hear me? Now come on, let's get back." Is he going to be okay? It looked pretty bad." "I said shut up. Hey, are you two going to take much longer, or do I have to come and help you?" "We're finished, Billy," Frank replied. "You better have a good excuse, though, or else we're going to be in big trouble." "Thanks for reminding me, Frank. Now come on, let's get out of here." As they got on their bikes, Linda took one last look at the forest behind the fence. It looked dark and impenetrable, and she wondered what was going on in there that people weren't allowed. Suddenly she saw something. A tree seemed to move, as if it was being pushed against it. And behind it was... "You coming, baby?" Billy called. "You're not still worried about that loser, are you?" "No, Billy. I'm just a little scared, that's all." "Scared of what? You think anyone's going to believe his story over ours? He probably won't even remember what happened here when he wakes up." Billy gave a little snicker, then turned his bike down the road and was off. Linda took one last look at the place where she thought she saw something. Something big. There was nothing there now, and she knew it was probably just her imagination playing tricks on her. Susan had watched the scene play out before her in horror. She'd first been drawn to the sound of raised voices, and she decided to go take a look. She crept through the forest as quietly as possible, leaving behind her picnic basket and her towel. As she got closer to the fence, she took every possible precaution to remain hidden. Crunched on all fours, she managed to hide behind a thick clump of trees, while she was able to see what was happening. She saw a group of kids, about her age, or perhaps a little bit older. Susan had never seen these people before. One of them, a short blonde boy, was being held tightly by two others. A girl was there too, as well as a dark-haired boy, who seemed to be the oldest. She tried to get a closer look when suddenly it happened. The two hefty guys threw the blonde boy forward, and he hit the fence with his full body. There was a brief shriek of pain and he flew backwards. Susan gasped and stepped back in shock, accidentally knocking over a 30-foot pine tree. If the other kids hadn't been absorbed by what was happening right in front of them, she may have been discovered. Luckily, she had a chance to compose herself while they were throwing the boy's unmoving body behind some bushes. She remained completely still, and after a few minutes, the strangers had left. By now, she longed for a closer look. After waiting another 5 minutes, she made sure that the coast was clear and approached the fence. She had to knock down a few more trees to get through the dense forest. All the while, she tried to remain calm, telling herself that the boy was going to be all right. "I have to help him," she thought to herself. "His life could be in danger. I know Daddy forbade me from revealing myself to strangers, but this is different. Oh well, I'm sure he'll understand. At least, I hope he'll understand." She knelt down before the fence. Even when kneeling, it came no higher than her hips. Carefully leaning over it, she began searching for the guy she wanted to help. Eventually, her fingers touched something soft in the undergrowth. "Got you. Now, if I can just pick you up." A lifetime of near crushes and broken bones had taught Susan never to underestimate her massive strength. It had been 3 years since she last accidentally gripped a person a little too tightly in her hand. By now she'd managed to refine her technique, and she was confident that she wouldn't hurt her new acquaintance. Nevertheless, she picked him up extra carefully, just in case he was already badly injured. She placed Jake's tiny body in the palm of her hand. He looked so vulnerable, lying there, barely longer than her hand was wide. She tucked her finger underneath his shirt, feeling for a heartbeat. If it was there, she couldn't detect it. "Hang on, little guy. Hang on. I'm not letting you die. Come on." She turned back home, carrying the injured Jake in her cupped hands. She had no idea what she could do to help revive him, but anything was better than leaving him there in the dirt. For the first time in her life, Susan actually had a purpose, a task to do, and she was determined to succeed.